And then I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, could everybody see hopefully everybody can see my screen. Okay, Paul's nodding his head, so that's good. All right, well, let me kick things off here, and let's get started. So, welcome everybody. Thank you very much for joining today.
If you just read the headlines around generative AI, it seems that this technology can do pretty much anything and it's going to take all of our jobs. This is what I call the AI promised land. We even have unicorns in the promised land, which are things like AGI, artificial general intelligence, this type of systems that are better to reason and think than any of us as humans. So clearly, there is a lot of hype and inflated expectations around generative AI. You can do some interesting things with this technology, like you can take this unicorn and inflate it like that. You can do that with a model called Pika 1.5. But if you want to apply this technology in your professional life and in your day-to-day life, what I found is that the reality land looks a bit different. Now, don't get me wrong, there are a couple of clear use cases to leverage generative AI in the professional and in your personal lives. But the use cases are nowhere near as impressive as what we see in the headlines or what companies are promising us. Today, for the next 30, 40 minutes, I want to mainly focus on the AI reality land. What are the practical use cases and applications for generative AI? Things that we can use as of today to make our work better and to work faster. Now, I want to start with a warning sign and just a bit focus on some security and compliance risks that I think we should be aware of that are surrounding generative AI. We could speak 1 hour just on this topic, but today I want to share with you just a couple of key points that I think are important to consider. First, you can only lose your data once, so please make sure that you read the fine print whenever you're choosing a generative AI tool. Secondly, these models are non-deterministic by nature and they can produce mistakes, as also Scott showed earlier. So really think of these systems as a junior assistant rather than something that you take for granted, and always validate the output. Third, many solutions, including paid subscriptions like ChatGPT Plus, will use your data, your prompts, and the results to improve their models and to retrain their solutions. Make sure that you read the terms and conditions and that you are comfortable with what the company is doing with your data. Last but not least, please make sure that you read and comply with the legal requirements, things like the European EU Act in Europe, or with your operating group policies surrounding generative AI. Now that we kind of got that out of the way, let's look at what are some of the practical applications that we can use. And I've divided the opportunity space on two axes. First, we have the spectrum of professional to personal. And then we have the second axis, which is productivity and all towards to creativity. So in the first quadrant, professional use cases for productivity, I suggest you kind of dip your toes into AI with simple things like email drafting, document summarization. You can use things like GitHub, like Copilot, Microsoft Copilot for Teams to automatically take notes and actions from meetings. AI can work great as a research assistant. And also there are some interesting models around text to audio. Also on the professional side, if we are to look at how can we boost our creativity, there are some interesting use cases around logo generation, as Scott shown, image visual effects, what I shown with inflating objects in images, podcast generation, event marketing, event planning and marketing. And you can even use these tools as kind of a sparring partner when you have a tough leadership challenge. And I'm going to show that a bit later. Moving to the personal side, I think there are some really interesting use cases in terms of using AI as a travel guide, as your fitness assistant, if your car breaks down or if you have a problem with your car, instead of opening the car's manual, you can actually use some of these AI tools to get to the answers faster. Some of my colleagues which have kids which are older are using AI tools for them as parents as helpers to their kids' math homework. So you're not giving the AI model to your kid, but rather you as a parent, you are kind of getting insights on how to help your kid. And one of my colleagues was actually convinced to pay for ChatGPT Premium after he used it to get his money back after an airline company lost his luggage. He was having this email exchange with this airline, and he started to use ChatGPT to generate the responses back, and they were impressively efficient. And looking at the personal and creativity side of things, again, birthday card image generation, song generation, as Scott shown, you can generate audio stories, and even you can use it to learn new hobbies. You can prompt it to say, hey, I want to learn this and I have this much time. Can you recommend some steps or some resources? Now, obviously, these are quite a few use cases, and I'm sure that if you start using AI, you're quickly gonna find new use cases even more relevant to your own processes. But because I only have 30 minutes in my slot, there is no way that I can showcase all of these. So I'm going to focus on a subset of these, some of the ones I've highlighted. And also, I want to bring attention to some malicious use cases that can be used by bad actors. And I think we as professionals, we need to be aware of and to need to protect against that. Now, let's start with a simple but useful use case. If you have Microsoft Copilot, you can use it in OneDrive. Imagine you receive 100 CVs in PDFs. And instead of going through each of them and kind of extracting key information to have a summary of all the candidates, you can use Copilot for that. And you can say, create a table with the following details: name, experience, and skills. Sort the table in the order of years of experience. And again, Copilot will actually go through each of these PDFs, and extract the key information and create the table for you. Again, it's not going to be a life changer, but it's a small time saver that can, all of these small time savers can stack up. And once you embed this into your workflow, you can realize that you can actually gain quite a bit of efficiency. Also, to share a personal example where I found AI to be quite useful, all of us that are responsible for leading teams often have to face challenging situations with managing our colleagues. And I think to a certain degree, AI can help with that. AI can be sort of can be sort of a leadership coach with kind of the right quotes around it. And basically, when I have a more nuanced question, I like to use two tools, ChatGPT and Claude. And the prompt I had here is, I have a colleague, let's call him John. He's very assertive and often too harsh when giving feedback to junior developers. I think he's well-intended and his feedback is correct, but how he presents the feedback often creates tension and unnecessary pressure, demotivating some of the developers. How should I give feedback? And I asked this question to both models, and they're not rocket science. They're not like something that I haven't heard before, but they're a great reminder of some of the steps that I should take before preparing for this meeting. So things like prepare your feedback, choose a good time and place, frame with positives. John, I see that you are interested in helping the team improve. Focus on observations, not judgments. Avoid phrases like you're too harsh. Explain the impact. Some junior developers feel a bit discouraged after the feedback sessions. Encourage empathy and self-reflection. Things like, I think your expertise would resonate even more if the feedback could feel more like guidance rather than critique. Offer to help and end with support. And Claude is coming up with kind of some similar things, but from a slightly different angle. Start with positive. Frame the concern in terms of effectiveness, use specific examples, and so on. And you can even take this further. If you have like a favorite author around leadership, you can say, how would Patrick Lencioni approach this situation? And if you read Patrick Lencioni's books, these models will come up with analogies and kind of pointers based on the concepts in the book to help you approach this situation. So in this case, it's things like start with building trust, encourage open dialogue and productive conflict. So really give this a try whenever you kind of have a difficult situation as a leader. And I'm sure you're going to be surprised just how good the results are. Third, these systems are also quite good at data understanding, especially for simple pieces of data. Here I have an image of a table showing how different assets evolved over time relative to inflation. So if I open this image, again, this is a PNG, and I ask first ChatGPT to convert this to a table. Really what I'm trying to understand is how different assets, how should I invest in different assets depending on inflation? And notice that when I ask this, ChatGPT doesn't just predict the answer, it runs Python code to give me kind of the answer. So first it creates this interactive table. I can select a column. I can say what is the average for this column. And again, it doesn't make a prediction, it runs Python code to give me the correct answer. Then I take it further and I say, plot all the values on a line chart. I'm just going to scrub to this with vibrant colors. I can download this chart. I can change the colors. And I can go even further and I can say, plot the correlation score between the columns on a matrix. Some of you in the finance team, I'm sure you're familiar with correlation matrices. So again, it runs Python code to generate this visualization. And in this case, I see the color coding for the correlation, but I don't actually see the correlation score. So what I do is I say add the correlation score on the boxes in the matrix. And again, it goes through the process again. And then I can clearly see that inflation is highly correlated with real estate, which is to be expected. I can see that bonds is highly correlated with cash and so on. So again, with a couple of prompts and without any kind of data analytics knowledge or tools, I was able to find some interesting results. Now, whenever we interact with these models and we ask them to do things, our queries are called prompts. And there is a whole discussion that kind of a lengthy discussion that we can have around prompting and what are the best prompting techniques out there. I'm not going to be able to cover this in the short segment that I have today, but if you're interested to kind of learn more about this and to improve the results that you're getting, I highly encourage you to take a look at this free prompting guide from Google. You can find it online. It covers prompts and techniques for multiple departments and professionals. So for communications, for customer service, for executives, for marketing, sales, project management, and so on. And it even comes with like examples of use cases. So for a chief marketing officer, it comes up with examples like generate a list of 4 relevant emerging thought leadership blog posts, ideas for company X based on trending topics. Or you can, for social media, it comes up with ideas like create a social media post promoting our upcoming event and so on. So you can find this online, Prompting Guide 101 from Google. If you cannot find it, drop me a message and I'm glad to share it with you. Now, I'm a big fan of audiobooks. I especially like to listen when I'm traveling or driving, but often some of the material, some of the articles or some of the books that I'm trying to read are not available in audio format. AI can help with that. Using the free Reader app from 11 Labs, which is available on iOS and Android, I can take any document or website or article and I can listen to it. This is how it works. After we install the app on iOS, this is an article really interesting from Sequoia, the 600 billion, the AI 600 billion question. You press the share button, you have the Reader app in there, you press it, and then you're going to be able to listen to that article.
The AI bubble is reaching a tipping point. Navigating what comes next will be essential. In September 2023, I published AI's $200 billion.
So it goes on like that for the full article. I often use this like on a weekly basis. give it a try, and especially if you enjoy listening to books or to articles, this is quite great for that. Now, this technology, as you can imagine, is quite powerful. So manipulating voices and converting text to voices. And you can easily imagine how this type of technology can also be used to cause harm or by bad actors. And to kind of show and bring a bit of light to this, I've studied a couple of interesting papers which clearly argue that phishing campaigns, so phishing campaigns are those malicious emails that in the past used to have spelling errors in them. Now they're generated with AI and they're quite convincing. And quite a few studies show that phishing campaigns are way more efficient when generative AI is used to create those campaigns. And something maybe even more interesting, according to a recent report, a finance worker was convinced using deepfakes to pay $25 million to a group of hackers. Imagine having a Teams call with your VP of finance, like Scott, and he asks you to make a payment to a vendor. Well, kind of that whole conversation and that whole interaction would be with a deepfake of Scott. And again, this might sound like science fiction, like this would never happen in CSI. This is like you need to be really advanced to create something like this. But that's really not the case. Here is a deepfake of Scott. I'm going to play it and take a listen.
I am Scott's evil twin AI avatar. However, I just have one question. Why is Scott involved in an AI masterclass when he knows nothing about artificial intelligence? In fact, I thought his skill set was limited to preferred shares, non-controlling interest, and reconciling intercompany. Scott, why don't you take your Pacioli cup, go back to your windowless basement office with your stack of books, and serve us up another CSI chat? By the way, how did you come up with the name CSI chat? My son's grade 5 class could do better than that. Ooh.
So what's both impressive...
And just for the record, Paul, like I know that's supposed to like look like me, but that guy sounds like a total a-hole. I did share this with my wife and my son just to try and get a little bit of feedback on this. What they had said was the video is pretty much bang on. The voice is a little bit off, but everything else is pretty much 100% accurate. So I'll let the 1,000 people here on the line be the judge, but just for the record, that guy sounds like a total a-hole and nothing like me at all. Okay, just to be clear. Okay, just wanted to state that this is getting recorded. I just want to state that for the record. Okay, and I'm sure all the finance people on the line totally agree with me 100%.
As we're on the record, I also want to state that actually Scott created this. So I think that's both impressive and scary. He created this using HeyGen and just a bit of instructions. So I think we should definitely be aware of kind of the opportunities and all of these interesting use cases that AI enables. But at the same time, I think we should be aware and cognizant of the risks that come packaged with this technology. And Scott, I must say, I was genuinely surprised by your sense of humor. I remember when we had our first call, you have this impressive title and that intimidating stack of books next to you. And I had no idea that you are as fun as you are. And preparing this session has been a blast. So thank you for playing along and for being willing to kind of integrate a bit of detail into this.
Here's the truth of it, Paul, is that for all the finance people on the line, they're saying, what jokes are you referring to? Because everything he just said was pretty much bang on. So, but anyway, I hope people are, again, you look at what Paul's going through, both Paul, and just to give people some perspective as well, Paul and Rich have been working on their decks for about, a little over a month, trying to get ready for this session. The guys have put in a lot of time and effort into putting together these decks, knowing what we get a good turnout. And again, like just starting with Paul's stuff, it's really, really good. I sat through it on Tuesday already. This is the second time I'm seeing it, and I'm still taking down notes. And again, we'll get to Rich in a second, but Paul, the stuff is excellent. Again, and again, for everybody on the line, Paul and Rich didn't just put this up in 5 minutes. This has been a month working on this stuff, trying to deliver something of value to the group.
Yeah, appreciate that. Now, switching gears to the personal side and some use cases in which you can use AI in your day-to-day life. First, AI can be great as a travel companion. I'm located in Cluj-Napoca, Romania, and let's kickstart this. So what you can do with AI is you can take you can ask what statue is this. You can pick up your phone, take a picture. This statue is actually in the city center of Cluj-Napoca, and you can ask ChatGPT some more details about this. Again, I haven't shared where I'm located. ChatGPT doesn't have access to my location. Just on this image alone, it's able to pick up the fact that this is a statue of Matthias Corvinus, a monument located in Cluj-Napoca. And then I can go do follow-up questions. Why was he famous? And I can get some interesting details. The fact that he had military achievements, Renaissance, justice and reform, cultural legacy, and so on. The second use case, as I mentioned earlier, AI can be quite good at doing car diagnostics. So if you have a problem with your car, you get like a weird warning light into your dashboard. You can take a screenshot of that warning light, and you can ask ChatGPT. So again, I could have opened the car manual and went through it and kind of tried to find out what those lights are. But here, just with a picture, I'm learning a lot about the battery warning light, the engine light, the bulb warning light, and what are some of the recommendations and things I can do to address those. Third, these systems are quite impressive at object recognition. I have a 3-year-old son, and a couple of weeks ago, he came to me with a toy figurine and asked me, what type of dinosaur is that? I had no idea. So I took a picture and I asked ChatGPT, what type of dinosaur is this? And immediately I learned that dinosaur appears to be a Triceratops. And then I went further and I said, draw a picture of it. First, it came up with this skeleton kind of image. For my 3-year-old, I think he might have gotten nightmares if I would have shown him this. So I took one further and I said, draw a picture of a live one. And again, then it comes up with a much more 3-year-old friendly one. And my kid was actually quite impressed when he saw this. And also, one of the things which I find quite amazing, often my son asks me to come up with these weird crossover stories, like, Dad, can you tell me a story about Mickey Mouse playing table tennis with a dinosaur or things like that? And it's always an interesting mental challenge to come up with these stories. But ChatGPT is quite impressive at generating stories based on a prompt. Here is just one example. This is using the advanced voice capability, which was announced a couple of months ago. Tell a kid's story about a warrior named Matthias. His horse suddenly fell ill during their journey. Along the way, they met a friendly Triceratops. Use appropriate sounds.
Once upon a time, brave warrior Matthias was journeying through the mountains on his loyal horse, Thunder. Suddenly, Thunder began to slow, his head drooping and hooves dragging. Matthias was worried. While looking for help, they met a friendly Triceratops named Trixie. Trixie examined Thunder and said, "He's eaten some bad berries, but don't worry, I know just the remedy."
And it goes on like that. Spoiler alert, the horse is just fine. He didn't die. But again, it's a really great way. And if you haven't tried ChatGPT with advanced voice, give it a try. Some of my colleagues are using it when they have like an interview with someone and they want to kind of brainstorm what questions to ask, how to approach different things, you just literally talk with it. You can ask it to quiz you on things. Imagine you have like you want to prepare for something and you want to know how good you are at certain things. You can open this and you can ask it to quiz you on certain topics to see how well you are prepared for it. So give it a try. It's quite impressive. Switching gears back to the professional side, here is quite a simple solution that we built at Yonder for ourselves. I really think that in a couple of years and in a couple of months even, every company is gonna have something like this. So this is our Yonder Copilot. You can edit in Teams as an app. And we designed this for colleagues which are new in Yonder. So you can say, hey, and it says, how can I help you? How do I take medical leave? How is my performance reviewed? Basically, new colleagues can ask questions about our processes and about our company. And obviously, this information is sitting somewhere in like a document management system, but no one is actually going and reading those. So, or how do I book a meeting room? And again, you're getting all the right information. I feel sick. How can I take medical leave? I really think that in a short amount of time, most companies are going to have something like this built in their organization. Next, I want to show off two use cases where AI can work great as a research assistant. ChatGPT recently announced their web search capabilities. For certain queries, it works much better than Google. So for example, on this one, I say, what is the investment strategy of CSI? I enable the search capability, and ChatGPT goes on the web and picks up these things. It says part of the strategy is targeted acquisitions, decentralized management, long-term ownership. I also see the links where the sources where it got that information from. And if I ask the same question on Google, basically I get like a short summary at the top, which is quite basic. And then I get a lot of blue links that I need to look through. If I open the first one, it takes me to the conclusions. That's not very useful. I don't have a lot of context. Again, the quality of the results is for certain use cases is much better with a tool like ChatGPT. Or if you want to try something similar, I recommend Perplexity. It's a tool which is designed kind of for the web querying with AI type of use cases. And the second and the last use case that I want to share with you today is using a tool called Notebook LLM. This is powered by Google. It's free. And again, I find myself using it quite often. What you're seeing here is the TSS website where they list all the recent acquisitions. All acquisitions have their press release, so kind of a large piece of text with details about that company and that acquisition. I can see that in this case, the managing director of the name of the managing director of Bypass, and basically here TSS lists all of their acquisitions. If I go back to Notebook LLM, I can input here all the sources, basically the links to the TSS website. After that, I'm going to see a summary of what I've added as sources. And then I can actually ask questions. So I can say, create a table showing the name of the company, when it was founded, the country of origin, and when it was acquired by TSS. And again, it takes all that information from those websites, those press releases, and it compiles a list with references, so with sources to all the information that I can verify, I can double check if I want. And again, this in some use cases this really saves me minutes, tens of minutes to hours. Or I could say, who is the managing director of Bypass? And again, on one of those sources, it was that reference. Or what companies are in the education vertical. And as you saw, the information is not really structured in those press articles. It's like quite written in free form. And I can take it even further, and I can generate a podcast based on this information.
All right, so you're ready for this. You sent over like a whole stack of press releases about this company, total specific solutions, TSS.
Yeah.
At first glance, I was like, okay, corporate acquisitions, how interesting can this be? But then I started looking into it, and it's actually way more fascinating than it sounds.
Yeah, it really is.
What's so interesting is that each one of these acquisitions kind of tells a story about a bigger trend, and that's vertical market software, VMS.
Yeah.
Like, we're talking software that's laser focused on a specific industry.
Right. Yeah. About
Like
to
a
go.
bespoke suit for a very particular need.
Yeah, and that's where TSS comes in.
Okay.
They're a European software conglomerate, but they're not like these big tech giants just gobbling everything up.
Right.
They're all about VMS.
Yeah.
And they have this really unique philosophy, like a buy and hold forever.
Okay, see, that's what really got me, that buy and hold forever.
So again, the podcast is 23 minutes. Often when I have like an article or a long document with a lot of details, I like to dump it into Notebook LM and use it to generate a podcast. And it's like having two experts talking on top of that document. And again, I'm able to kind of find a lot of interesting insights. It's way easier to digest. Again, give this a try. It's free. I'm sure you're going to be quite impressed with how well it works. Now, as we've seen, clearly there are some practical use cases to use generative AI in the reality land, both in our professional lives and in our personal lives. And I'm quite confident that like every 6 months, as these models get better and better, the patch of green grass that we see in this reality land desert will only grow larger. And please keep in mind when you're constantly reevaluating how you can use AI, kind of the 4 quadrants. Look for opportunities in the professional and productivity quadrant. Look for opportunities that boost your creativity, both in the professional life and in the personal life. Now, before I close, I want to briefly take you behind the scenes on how I generated these images. Obviously, they're AI generated. So in order to create the larger patch of green grass, I started from the first one, and I've said, add some more green grass to this image, keep it as much as possible to the original one. And the initial result that I got back was this. And for me, this is a great reminder that these tools, even though we're calling them artificial intelligence tools, in reality, they're more like intelligence augmentation tools. I think we should remember that it's up to us as humans to apply our intelligence, to validate, to improve the results. And we can use and we should use these tools to augment our intelligence rather than thinking that they will replace our intelligence. Thank you a lot for listening. I'm going to hand it over to Scott to make the highly anticipated introduction of Rich. I'm curious how that will go. Thank you a lot for the opportunity.
That's great, Paul. No, that was a great presentation. I know that there's questions, obviously, that are coming up. The way we're going to approach it is we're going to leave the questions until the end. We're going to get through the material first, and then we'll open it up for questions at the end. And again, between the 3 of us, we got time at the back end of our schedule to open it up. And if it goes over, it's not a big deal. Okay, so let's keep going now. Okay, hopefully everybody can see my screen. All right, so now it's Rich's turn. So I had met Rich and I met actually not in an AI setting. We actually met in a finance setting. We were talking about some accounting issues with respect to his company and how to get the books, just some stuff relating to a few transactions. And then what I did is I actually spent a little bit of time learning about Rich and his background. And he is a serial entrepreneur. He is the founder of Rhea. And again, this is a CSI company which focuses on the building of AI agents. And what Rich is going to get into, what I realized after talking to Rich about this, is that there is a million use cases on something like this within Constellation. One of the big issues within CSI is in a decentralized environment is the dissemination of information. That's a big issue in terms of trying to get information all the way down into the groups. It's a big challenge. You can use an AI agent in order to make this process a lot easier. So I'm not going to steal Rich's thunder. Rich is going to get into the AI agents. However, another thing I learned about Rich is that he is the co-host of the podcast called the AI Guys Pod. Now, Rich is the co-host. He is also joined by his partner in crime, Lee Dixon. Those are the two guys that run the podcast. And it is a really, really good podcast on AI. They just had a recent episode on how to leverage Copilot, for example. And I'm not sure if it's weekly or bi-weekly or whatever it is, but again, they're producing episodes on a regular basis on artificial intelligence. And I would highly encourage people to check that out, because it is not industry specific, or not role. It's not role specific. They're covering a wide range of topics. Just to give you some perspective, I think Lee was mentioning the other day that they are closing in on 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is, the podcast hasn't even been in existence for a year. 100,000 is actually pretty impressive. That's probably about 100,000 more subscribers than I have for CSI Chat. Not that that's a good reference point, but just to give you some perspective on the popularity of the podcast, that's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty sizable group. So I would encourage everybody to check this out. So what I thought would be fun is, well, let's write a song about Rich co-hosting this podcast called the AI Guys Pod. So what's the name of this song? This song is called Sharing AI's Light. Now, if you'll notice in here, going back to what Paul had said, the AI is not perfect. I'm going to have the lyrics, but you will see actually some errors in the lyrics. And I've left those in, part of it because frankly, I'm lazy and they're not that easy to fix. But what I've sold myself on is, again, it's a good lesson for the group. Don't just take AI, and just incorporate it. This should go through a review process. So I'm going to try and serenade Rich in the same way that I serenaded Paul. I've got my glasses, so I better get my glasses again. Again, if you're listening, turn up the volume. Got my glasses. We're getting in the mood. I can't forget, there is a little bit of guitar solo, so I can't forget my guitar. I got my guitar back. But Rich, this song is for you, my friend. I hope you like it. Sharing AI's Light. And as I mentioned at the top, Rich has not heard this song before. I did not share with him this song in advance, so he is hearing it at the same time as everybody else. So Sharing AI's Light, I hope everyone likes it.
From the sunny shores of Sarasota, where dreams take flight, Rich Wire, the entrepreneur, shines so bright. With a mind for tech and a heart for the new, he co-hosts AI Guys, bringing insights to you. Rich Swire on the mic, sharing AI's light. With AI Guys, he makes the future bright. From real estate to tech, he's seeing it all, guiding us through AI, standing tall. From startups to success, he's paved the way. Emerging worlds of tech, day by day. With a background in computer science, he leads. In the podcast world, he plants the seeds. Rich Swire on the mic.